It was still kind of known when I was growing up, and this was probably like early 2000s, that you just like, you weren't as safe walking around at night on the east side of Robertson. I can't really say like there were any conversations. Like it's not like I was ever told don't go there. It's one of those things that you just kind of absorb. There was like the Robertson Park is on Robertson Aerodrome, which is not that far from where my parents lived. But that's like the only time like I would see black people growing up, was pretty much like walking by that park and people playing basketball and people hanging out. Like I was like, oh, okay, so like the black neighborhood is east of Robertson, and it's not safe to go there at night. So I think some of the connections like were implicit about like who you should fear and like who you should stay away from, in a way that like, you know, spending all day in private school in Hancock Park or whatever, it's never really discussed. It's never really unpacked. Even as we're reading To Kill a Mockingbird, you know, in 6th or 7th grade, whatever it was. Even as we're learning about the civil rights movement, there's a way that the present moral problems of the place that you live in and grow up in aren't really negotiated or discussed.
I guess that there is a little bit of ambivalence for adults to communicate that to their kids in a way that maybe exposes too much of the real world to them.
I think a lot of people don't really understand the nuances of it, and even adults, even me, like I'm still kind of trying to figure this stuff out for myself, and I think having that conversation with a kid is hard. I think it's important. I mean, I don't have any kids, but I think, you know, a lot of people do have that conversation with their kid, but, you know, misinform them or say the wrong things. You know, my grandpa was at the March on Washington, standing next to Martin Luther King as he delivered the "I Have a Dream" speech. Like he was he was a speechwriter for Rabbi Joachim Prinz, like who I think was a speaker before him, before King. You know, civil rights was like a big thing growing up in my house. We didn't discuss systemic racism like at dinner. It wasn't at the forefront. The way that, let's say, learning what the rules of Shabbat were.
When you got to college, what did you study, and what are some of the courses that you may have taken that kind of informed you about race and civil rights, if you took any of those courses?
Yeah, I was an American Culture Studies major. I took Intro to African American Studies my junior year.
So it's a class full of black kids, huh?
It was. There were a few white kids. Yeah, there were so many things I learned. Like that was ultimately one of the most valuable lessons or most valuable courses I took in school. Like I went to a very white school in the Midwest, WashU in St. Louis. Yeah, it just was really eye-opening to even learn about like colorism. I had never like heard of that term. Like learning about hair, like never thought of like the cultural importance of hair. It kind of showed me how much I didn't know.
All right, so let's get into this article, and let's start with you transitioning to move into this community in 2018.
So when I graduated WashU, I lived in Wisconsin for 2 years, and I worked for a healthcare insurance, or not insurance, healthcare software company. Basically doing consulting, and did not take to that work. And I kind of knew that I wanted to be a writer all along. So after a couple of years there, I moved back home with my parents then and set out to become a writer.
And then at some point you decide to move out of your parents' house?
Yeah, I set out to move out of my parents' house a lot earlier than I moved out of my parents' house. You know, as soon as you move in, you're like, okay, when do I get out of here?
Now let me ask about that, because I guess it might be different for a Jewish family, but did you have the type of parents that were telling you it's time to get out of here, or did they embrace you, you know, to come stay here and stay here as long as you need to? What was that situation like?
Once I was there, it wasn't like there was no like elbowing me in the side to get out of the house. It was really like, how can we get your writing career on track? Because my mom was a professional journalist. Now she's a journalism teacher. So I think she understood how hard it is to get one of those careers going, especially in today's media economy.
And why do you think that it took you some time to decide to get into writing professionally as opposed to just jumping right into it after you graduated?
Student loans, fear, not thinking that I could do it.
So let's go into your decision to, I guess, finally move out in 2018, but you don't move too far.
No. So that was, it was tough threading the needle of a place that was still within the Jewish community because I'm still an observant Jew.
Thanks for watching StreetTV.net. If you're not subscribed, please hit that button below and click the bell to receive alerts and notifications. Feel free to comment below so you can give us your feedback, and be sure to watch the 2 related episodes to the right. If you want to support this platform or follow us on social media, visit the links in the description. And thanks for watching StreetTV.net.